Principles of Critical Discourse Analysis, CDA. Overview. The principles of critical discourse analysis, CDA, attempt to find answers to questions such as what is CDA? What are the different components of CDA? Generally, the answers here culminate into a relation between various aspects including power, social inequalities, and discourse analysis with the social framework of relationships. In CDA, a language is perceived as being a social process that has a dialectical interconnection with others. Besides, the principles of CDA outline a substantive linguistic aspect of the social relationship in power. Principles of Critical Discourse Analysis. There are 5 main principles of CDA. CDA and social problems. The first is the principle that focuses on how CDA manages social problems. In this principle, CDA addresses the linguistic nature of a social construct. The scope for CDA analysis and social theories is considerably and continually expanding among scholars in the fields of international relations and political science. CDA and power relations. The second principle argues for the disruptive nature of power relations. Ideally, CDA has key consideration on the discursive attributes that emanate from social relations of power within a society. This means that discourse is the pathway toward robust power relations. CDA with culture and society. The third principle is the integration of culture and society. There exists a relationship between the latter two and with CDA shaping them. Consequently, the relationship brings about the concept of essentialism, which is an essential framework that explains diverse social phenomena among humans. CDA and textual practices. The fourth principle establishes the integration between social-cultural pillars and textual practices. According to Michael Foucault, this relationship is founded on the pillars of orders of discourse. CDA and historical relations. The fifth principle points out the historical component of the discourse analysis. The argument here is that discourse is only produced with the context in the limelight, and usually the latter must have a historical background. Summary: Critical Discourse Analysis, CDA. Critical discourse analysis delves into how dialect application can be ratifying and undoubtedly develops the outlook, values, and methods of conversing that may not be the concern of the powerless. The interaction between dialect, influence, and dogma is a significant point of convergence. Critical discourse analysis involves a versatile group of frameworks that try to exemplify, translate, and disclose this connection. Critical. Critical means the research and collecting issues with how sway and prejudice are created via the dialect. It is essential to how the different dialect applications can perform a subjective function, where the subjective are the representations of the facets of the world that are partly responsible for establishing and maintaining the relationship of power, subjection, and profiteering. Discourse. Speech can mean the language in the application or can suggest methods of talking concerning the world, which is intimately connected to means of noticing and understanding them. In the description, the text is rigorously described in an understandable best way possible about the analytical focus. It is by application of systemic functional linguistics, SFL. Interpretation is how the text might lead to a discourse, such as the situation of language use. The explanation: there is a connection between the text and the second discourse circulating in the larger cultural and social context. Approaches. There are various approaches to CDA applied. They are: critical linguistics that focuses on revealing the biases and showing how they can mystify the actual nature of events in reporting. The socio-cognitive analysis aims at the dialectical connections between social structures. The discourse historical approach places significance on the inspection and historicizing of content. The socio-cultural approach tracks its cynosure generally on how socio-cultural advances, the proliferation of industrialism, and conversion in discourse are enmeshed.